Mr. Moorman, thank you so much for joining us.
Certainly.
It's day one of these 8 weeks of major works. How has Penn performed so far? And do you have any estimates yet of how many people have used the station today?
We don't have any hard numbers yet. We had a very good morning commute. We're ready now to see what the first afternoon commute looks like. We know the passenger count's been down some. Some of that may just be because people have chosen alternatives. Some may be because it's still coming off a long holiday week or vacation. But the trains ran on time, and so far so good.
Well, that's excellent to know. How confident are you of meeting the Labor Day deadline?
I think we're very confident for three reasons. First, we've done an extraordinary amount of planning of all kinds. Second, we have a very competent, trained workforce who knows how to do this kind of complex work. And the third is we have the ability, if we get towards the end of August and we have any concerns about time, to button things up and maybe finish a couple of things in weekends afterwards. So we're prepared to be ready by Labor Day.
And what about commuters? How are they responding to the works that are ongoing these few weeks? And how do you think they'll respond if it does go beyond September?
Well, I think they'd be very unhappy if it went beyond September, which is why we're not going to do that. The response, I think, is, from what little I've heard, really it comes from the users of the Long Island Railroad and New Jersey Transit. By and large, all of the things that I've heard is that it was a reasonable first day. We'll see how it continues to go, but remember, a lot of planning on the part of all of the parties has gone on, and people have known about this now for a while. So they've had the ability to make some alternative travel plans. It's unplanned disruptions that we're trying to avoid. And so we think this hopefully is something everyone will be able to manage.
Now, there has been decades of underinvestment in Penn's infrastructure. The station is operating at twice its design capacity.
Right.
Amtrak has many more big jobs ahead of it, even after this work is done. How will future disruptions compare? Will other big projects require longer shutdowns? Is this just a taste of what's to come over the next few years?
No, in fact, it's exactly the opposite. We are doing the most difficult work that I'm aware of in the station this summer. And yes, we're going to continue to do weekend work, extensive weekend work. We're going to have a few periods where we have one track that we have to rebuild, but we don't see anything this disruptive anytime in the future right now. Having said that, there's always work to be done, and we'll have to manage it as efficiently as we can.
Now, vital to Penn's future is the $24 billion Gateway project.
Right.
That includes building a new tunnel under the Hudson River. The president's budget would effectively eliminate capital funding for that. How are you working to persuade him otherwise?
Well, we're doing a lot of work with the administration. Secretary Chow and the Department of Transportation staff have been, very receptive to listening to Gateway and looking at the projects. I think we've had a lot of very good conversation with them. And the president's very aware of infrastructure, and particularly infrastructure in the New York area. These are vital projects. If they're not done eventually, we shut down the essential transportation mode between here and New Jersey. And I always say I'm an optimist. I think this will be funded. We just have to see how.
You mentioned the president is interested in infrastructure. He's a New Yorker. He's promised $1 trillion of infrastructure spending.
Right.
Has he promised any of that money to you?
He hasn't made any promises yet. But as I say, we're having a lot of conversation with them. The good thing about this project, too, is any time you read about major infrastructure projects anywhere in the United States, this project's always at the top of the list. So we think it has the importance. We think we'll be receiving the funding at some point.
You sound very confident that it'll get going. Do you have any idea of timeline?
Well, we'd love to see it happen sooner rather than later, obviously, because we'll get the final environmental impact statement on the new tunnels in the spring. After that, we're waiting. Right now, we haven't been waiting on anything. So, we'll continue to push. We continue to talk to the Congress. Obviously, a lot of them are very receptive. And Amtrak will do everything everything it can to make sure the funding happens.
What about public-private partnerships? That's something that's been touted by the President and Secretary Chow as a way to making sure projects like this happen. Is that something you would back?
Oh, we back that, certainly. The problem we have with things like new bridges and tunnels is that it's very difficult to figure out where the private investment gets a payback. You know, you can't very well put a toll on a new tunnel or a new bridge. Are there some opportunities? I think so, but they're limited. The majority of the funding will have to come from the federal government and the states. And the states, New York and New Jersey, are very supportive and have stepped up in a big way already to commit funding to the project.
And one final question, just to get back to the major works that we're seeing over the next 8 weeks. They've been dubbed the summer of hell. Would you classify them that way too?
No, not at all. Although, unfortunately, that's a moniker that seems to have stuck. We call it the summer of renewal. And, you know, I'm confident that we've done the right planning, we've got the right team, and that we'll look back and hopefully at the end of the summer, two things will happen. One, people will be saying, well, that wasn't that bad. And the other thing that's equally important to me that people will say is Amtrak told us what they were going to do, they committed on that, and they know how to do the work that's required.